What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video, and today we have What If Issei Was Betrayed Part 7. If we want to hit 300 to 400 likes for this video, that'd be absolutely amazing. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or the first link in the description, or the first link in the comment section down below, or the first link in the premiere, or the first link everywhere you will see. Trust me. Thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. What If Issei Was Betrayed Part 7, and this one is, an hour and 10 minutes? This is a really, really long episode, but it is so good. I got so interested that I read for an hour and 10 minutes straight. This is a really good chapter. It's an absolute banger chapter. So without further ado, it's like My Balance Breakers and Juggernaut Drive members. VR Wolf, Lachlan Yates, Cool Ninja 12, and Dark Phoenix. Thank you so much for becoming a Juggernaut Drive member. And let's go ahead and thank my balance breakers. Ziki 2000, Nuga Booga Uga, Seraphal Leviathan, Night Ammo, Scott Clowry, Erdit Krenzi, Native Darkwood. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker / Juggernaut Drive member. Seriously, I cannot thank you guys enough. I just relieved What If Issei Was Deceived over on my Patreon. And with that being said, let's go ahead and shout out my Patreon members. Smells Noise, Lachlan Yates, Godkiller, Elton, Mark Bacon, J Truly 2, and Logan Kolar. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. Seriously, guys, this is a fantastic episode, so hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I did. And without any other further intrusion, hit the like button, become a member, and without any further intrusion, let's go ahead and get right into What If Issei Was Betrayed Part 7. Chapter 9. Issei enjoyed his rest, remembering that he had a mission with Kiba and Gasper. He felt two separate weights on him. Remembering that those weights were Kanoa and Lilith, his little sisters, he let out a small groan as he figured it was quite early. He let his eyes adjust, and then he felt something or someone watching him. Looking over, he saw none other than Orphis calmly watching him. "Good morning, Issei," Orphis says. "Orphis?" Issei replied. "They said you went to the dimensional gap." "I did," Orphis says. Issei shifted his weight, trying not to wake the girls, as he sat up a bit. "So you're back, huh?" Issei says. "Yes," Orphis replied, before she tilted her head. "Interesting to find you sleeping without either one of your mates. Well, they are understandable when it comes to my little sisters," patting each one on the back. "I see," Orphis replied. "You're not going to dip out, are you?" Issei said. "Lilith needs to train her power, or your power. At least you're the only one for the job." "Yes, I suppose. You should probably wake them and get ready for yourself," Orphis says. "Ah, right, the mission," Issei says, moving a little, causing the two girls to give groans of discomfort, losing their heat source, causing them to stir awake. "Quit moving, Onisama," Kanoa says, trying to hold on to Issei as he maneuvered himself out of bed. Lilith wants to sleep more, as trying to clutch on to Issei. "Sorry, girls, but there's someone here to see you," causing the girls to really wake up, rub their eyes, and look around until they see Orphis. Orphis chimed. Before she knew Orphis as Fis, similar to how she knew Lilith as Lith, to keep her identities a secret until her mother and Issei told her the truth about her friends, and she didn't see them any differently. "Ori-chan," Lilith says, letting go to hug Orphis. "You came back," Kanoa says. "Yes, your festivals are a bit noisy for me. I like silence. At least Bakabra didn't disturb me," as she rubbed the heads of both girls, hugging her. "But I did miss both of you." It wasn't often that Orphis showed any emotion, but when she did with Lilith and Kanoa, she tends to have a small smile on her face, watching them grow watching Kanoa grow, since Lilith can remain the same age, since she was Lilith were both ageless. "Well, since you two are up, I can go get ready. You two as well understand, right?" Issei says, receiving nods from the girl when he turned to Orphis. "And please, make sure to do that, too, Orphis. And no, I will not be giving you sweets to do this. You fooled me the last few times already." "Very well," Orphis says, still having a small smile, because even if Issei didn't give her sweets, she knew that Invigold was too kind-hearted, so it was a win for her regardless. "Come on, you two," as she floated off the bed. The other two, also out of bed, followed Orphis out of the room, allowing Issei to get ready. "Well, nice to see her again," Issei says. "The boost gear activated." "Indeed," Drake says. "Oh, Drake, why didn't you say anything?" Issei replied. "Because she never addressed me. Anyway, do you think you will need me for this mission?" Drake says. "With the exception of using Artements and summoning Ascalon, probably not. I don't think I'll need to use my balance breaker just yet." "Very well. Though I am not surprised. You have gotten stronger without my aid and is suited to honing this new body well. and your magic prowess. Yeah, Issei said, a little absent-minded as he dressed into his new outfit that he received. When he said he got a new body, the only difference was that he wore 2 sleeves on his arm instead of 1. Something on your mind, Drake says. Yeah, I get a feeling that we might get some answers, and something is better than nothing, right? Issei says. I suppose you are right. Think you should eat breakfast? Drake says, knowing the gruesome things that one could find in one of these bases. Maybe a light one. Can't fight on an empty stomach, Issei says. I suppose you're right. Maybe we'll uncover something that the rumor may be true, Drake says. Yeah, I had that suspicion too, Issei replies. He exited his room, started to sense where Minerva or Invigol could be. It seems they were in the dining hall, as well as Kiba, Gasper, and Yakuza, so he decided to head there. Checking the time, he saw that it was a little past 8, which was good, since he recalled Kiba saying that they were leaving at 9. He could tell that one of the lilies were still in the Kano's room, either still greeting ready or head off, knowing he knew it was likely both. Entering the dining hall, he greeted the occupants that were there, giving a kiss to Minerva and Invigold, kiss on the cheek to Yakuza, and nods to Kiba and Gasper. So what were you all discussing, Issei says as he sits down. Well, I was informing Kiba kinda and Gasper kinda to be on the lookout for Captain Ryoga. He hasn't been in contact with us for a few months, Yakuza says. Issei nodded at this information as Captain Ryoga was a wolf yokai that Issei trained with whenever he stopped by Kyoto to help improve his tracking skills as well as stealth capabilities, but he was nowhere near Invigold's level, who could make her energy signature untraceable as if she was never in the area. Well then, it is likely that he has been compromised, Issei said as he looked down somberly. He understood the situation and preferred to assume the worst until proven otherwise. Issei said, afraid so, Yakuza said, looking down as well. I just don't know who could have gotten the drop on him, Yakuza said. Probably a higher up. I don't think a single necromorph could have gotten him. Yes, it's what led my scout team to discover this base near Mount Hai. There were a few necromorphs around, but they were eliminated. Thus, they set up a barrier to prevent any others from roaming about. Isn't there a tourist attraction near Mount Hai? Kiba said, yes. The Ingadrachi Temple. My yokai have been monitoring the situation so far. Humans are unaware of the danger, Yakuza said. There's a good chunk of the forest around Mount Haiki. Kind of smart them utilizing somewhere near a tourist attraction. It's a place where we would never check because humans are around. It seems they're also keen on exposing the supernatural world either, Issei says. Aren't keen. It also seems to be a small base, Yakuza says, as she brought out a holographic image of the base that her scouts sent to her. Looks can be deceiving, Minerva says, which Invigol nodded in agreement. They had been on a couple of bases with Issei. Considering where that base is, there are multitude of bases around and are most likely all connected to each other, Invigol said. They're right, Issei replied. As he looked at Kiba and Gasper, this base that we're seeing now is probably just an entrance, so this may not be so simple. Go figure. When is it ever easy? Kiba said with a small smile. Hopefully you got a light breakfast. Wouldn't want you to lose it all, Issei said. Is it that bad? Gasper replied. Yeah, and it's been months. The place is probably reeking, Invigol-chan. Took a while to get used to the stench upon entering. Then there were dismembered bodies, Issei said. That's great, Gasper said, becoming slightly crestfallen and could only hope that he had his stomach as breakfast. After which, Kano came running in, excited about something with Orphus and Lilith following behind. Uncle-sama, guess what? Kano said. What is it, dear? Coroneus said that she would be coming over to teach me some new moves in a couple of days. Isn't that great? With a small smile on her face. Yakuza's eyebrows raised in surprise. Invigol looked confused as she doesn't know who that is, while Minerva, Kiba, and Gasper looked towards Issei, who slightly stiffened before their gaze landed on him. Other than that, he was relaxed and began to eat his breakfast. That's wonderful, Kano-chan, but you should get some breakfast to see your big brother off. And hello to you, Orphus-chan. Orphus nodded at the greeting and looked at all the occupants of the table before going to take a seat. Morning, Lilith said, keeping her manners like Issei taught, as she looked at the occupants, although her gaze did linger for Minerva for a little longer, and followed her Oni-chan. Good morning, Lilith-chan, Orphus-chan, as they sat down near her. Morning. Tigus of Ikabra but wondered, what was that about, trying to understand why Lilith looked at her a little longer. Issei finished his light breakfast. as a servant came around and took his plate away, although he didn't ask for them, but servants were diligent to attend to their guests of their queen. Seeing the time, he realized that he had about 10 minutes left before departure. We got about 10 minutes left. Are you guys good to go? Looking over at Kiba, Gasper, who were taking sips of their tea, and gave a nod. Alright, I guess we'll be leaving now. He walked over at the lawyers. Kiba and Gasper were getting ready to head out, giving Orphis a hug, which was surprised her a bit. Sorry we got to cut our time short. See you when I get back, Issei says. All in due time, Issei, Orphis replies, patting his shoulder. He moved next to Lilith, giving her a hug and a kiss on the head, rubbing it affectionately. You be a good girl, remember what I told you, right, Moto? As he looked into her eyes and remembered that she is one of the reasons why he keeps fighting. Lilith will miss you, Oni-san, as she hugged him back, and I will miss you too. Remember to get along with her, okay? That for me, please. She gave a nod of confirmation, then patted her head and continued to eat her food. Kano was a bit nervous because she remembered that Issei was not on speaking terms with their new Nissan and blatantly said her name. Why are you nervous, Kano? Detecting a waver in her confidence. Sorry about talking about Kuro-ni. I forgot that you don't want to hear of them, and I said her name. I didn't mean to upset you, Oni-san. You didn't upset me. Eventually, I'll have to talk to her. Hold my end of the bargain to volley as he crouched down to her level and gave her a hug. You keep finding ways to get stronger. I'm very proud of you, Kano-san. Thank you, Oni-san, as she hugged him back and then blushed. Oni-san, can I kiss you too? You gave Lilith one. Issei laughed and gave her another kiss on her head, as well as rubbed it as well. He was going to pat it until Lilith interrupted him. Oni-chan's head pats are supposed to feel like Lilith only. Ah, sorry. Turning back, but this time rubbing Lilith's ear, which was her tickle spot, as she shrugged away, with a small face on her face. Now, be good. Both of you tried to not cause trouble to Imagul-chan, Minerva-chan, Orphis-chan, and Yakuza-chan. Listen to them and be on your best behavior. And they all said yes at the same time. That's my girls. Look out for them, Orphis-chan, getting a nod from the Dragon of Infinity as he stood up and headed over to Imagul, Minerva, and Yakuza, who were saying their farewells to Kiba and Gasper, who were also getting some tips from Minerva and Imagul and Necromorphs that they have faced, just in case. Done saying goodbyes, Minerva said, as she noticed Issei heading over to them. Not quite. Well, first thing, I'll need your stasis. I can upgrade them while you're on your mission. Alright, as he summoned them and handed them over to her. I guess we'll wait to hear from you. Be warned. Try to communicate before you reach the barrier, because once you enter it, we may lose contact with you, Yakuza says. It's a long trek up to Mount Heiau. You can't exactly fly over there without getting spotted by humans in broad daylight. There should be a path for us to take. That's why we're leaving this early, Kiba says. A path? Is it obscured by hikers and other travelers, Issei said. Yeah, Yakuza gave us the route in our meeting yesterday before you showed up, Issei. Gasper said, that's good. Any rivers or streams along the way? Of course, Kiba said. Good. Issei replied. He turned to Minerva and Imagul. I'll be taking Flare and Blitz out. They may be bored being cooped up in Rimaro. That'll make it easier to travel. Either one of them can carry multiple people, depending on where you place yourselves, Minerva says. Yakuza-san, do you have some fish that is ready to be eaten? Imagul replied. Of course, Yakuza replied. She nodded to a servant. Who wanted to bring the fish? Excuse me. Who are Flare and Blitz? Kiba said. Oh, that's right. I never told you their names yesterday, but those are the two familiars that I got. One's like a raptor and the other's like a big crocodile. Issei said. I see, having a little discomfort about the new familiars that his friend had. Come on, I can't summon them here. Can you lead us to the path, Yakuza-san? Issei said. Of course. I wouldn't want to miss seeing my boy off, now do I? Alright, let's go, Issei said. Bye, Oni-sama. Though Kino showed more enthusiasm than Lilith, Orphis merely waved farewell and continued to mind her business, while watching the other two. Minerva, Issei, Kiba, and the Golden Gasper followed Yakuza to the path that she showed the knight and the vampire yesterday. It seemed that Kiba and Gasper felt more comfortable talking to the girls as they asked questions, while Issei conversed with Yakuza and Roga about Ryoga's disappearance, and the possible relation to the Phoenix clan members disappearing that Kiba informed him about. Yakuza noted that it seemed possible as the disappearance were closely connected. She could not specify which members of the Phoenix clan were abducted, whether they were simple servants or Parage members, because Sir Zex did not disclose that to the last faction's meeting. They reached the path, but Issei insisted that they wait for the fish to get here, so Yakuza contacted Kano to let her know where they were. Luckily, Kano were to guide the servants too, since she didn't want to leave either Orphis or Lilith alone. Her stories about what Orphis had during her time During the time she spent outside the dimensional gap before Great Red appeared, the servant was able to reach Yakuza, and the others were a big plate of cooked salmon. That'll do, thank you, Issei said as the servant bowed and stood idly by while Issei divided by the massive portions of salmon and two. We'll bring the plate back with us, Hyoto. Thank you. Addressing the servant, so he may go back to the palace as she knew how Issei's familiars could potentially act. You might want to stand back, Issei said, turning to Kiba and Gasper. Imagul-chan, get ready. Imagul's eyes changed from orange to a light violet as she had her sacred gear ready, while Issei produced two magic circles, on which was ablaze and the other was crackling with lightning. Come out, you two. We got a job to do, as the two creatures began to emerge from each circle. From the magic circle that was on fire, a raptor did emerge, but rather be covered in scales, it was covered in crimson red feathers, with the feathers and the tail being mostly gray. Along with the outer feathers on the arms, it did have gray scully underbelly. Another notable difference was its size. Kiba and Gasper have seen Jurassic Park movies, and this raptor was much bigger than those. It looked like this one was just a little bigger than the thoroughbred racehorse with sturdier legs. Another difference was that this raptor had 4 amber eyes that could look like pools of lava. The second set of eyes was slightly smaller than the first on the side of the raptor's head. The creature roared as the gray feathers that were on the body glowed amber, and they were abruptly set ablaze. From the magic circle with lightning around it, a crocodile-looking creature came out. It was a little bigger than the raptor. Unlike the raptor, it was covered in all scales. It had spine-like fins on its back, and back from the front legs, and also a tail, both on the top and bottom. The creature stood on the 4 legs, but from what Kiba and Gasper could see from its posture, it was definitely more agile than a crocodile. They could see from the assortment of the teeth that the creature possessed its long jaw. The creature was covered in very dark blue scales that had a bit of a tiger stripe pattern with orange red scales. The fins on the spines of the body, as well as the teeth and the claws, were glowing glue with lightning crackling, and it had 2 green eyes that were ready honed on whatever its target. The creature roared as lightning crackled all over its body, similar to the fire that roared from the raptor's body. The gold that already began singing as the tune of the two creatures' roaring began to diminish to a growl as their respective elements began to fade away from their bodies. They stopped growling, but Issei and the others could hear rumbling in their bellies as the creatures looked towards Invigul's with soft growls. They looked towards her, and Crocodile nudged her with its head that was almost as big as her body, and the raptor gave her a lick on her cheek. Invigul stopped singing to softly hum as she rubbed the sides of their head. Hey, you two, we got some company. Time to eat up. I got some friends that you would like to meet. As the two creatures whirred at Issei and charged towards him, with the crocodile knocking him to the ground and the raptor up his ear and really looking his base. Issei was laughing as the treatment was too familiar gave him. Giving a massive look from the crocodile, Minerva summoned 2 big steel bowls and Invigul them some water. Knock it off. Eat up, you two. We got a job to do. With a laugh and pushing the crocodile's head away from him, since each creature was much bigger than him, it took some effort. Once he was presented with a quantity of salmon for each them to eat, which creatures were delighted to eat. Issei used the flames to dry up the drool, and the 2 creatures covered him. So, those are your new familiars. Wow, Kiba said, standing in awe at the huge creatures he'd summoned, while Minerva, Yakuza, and Imagul helped them. Yeah, let me introduce you to them. Don't worry, they're like huge dogs, but scoured, feathery. As he walked to feasting creatures, he worked after the crocodile creature with Kiba and Gasper following. So these are Flare and Blitz, huh? You said their names earlier. Correct. As if you could tell from their elements, this is Blitz, patting the crocodile's head, who softly growled. You'll be riding him to the base. Let me get familiar to you. You know to take in your sense. He turned to Blitz. Blitz, these are my friends. Kiba and Gasper, pointing at each respective blonde. Blitz briefly looked at the blonde before washing down the salmon he had just eaten with the water and Imagul had provided. Come closer, let him get a whiff of you. As the 2 blondes walked cautiously towards the crocodile, Blitz snapped his jaws at the blondes, causing each of them to step back abruptly. Stand your ground, Issei said, speaking firmly to the blondes. They don't like it when you show fear. Kiba and Gasper gulped nervously, but understood what Issei meant as they continued to walk towards Blitz, who snapped his jaws again. Gasper stopped for a second, but continued to stopped for a second but continued to walk towards the crocodile. They both got close enough until they could see his nostrils flare. He stopped snapping and began to sniff until he let out a soft growl and then licked each one, leaving drool on a bit of the salmon on each one. Minerva stopped getting the raptor and took a picture of the two blondes in their stunned daze. Ivigol and Yakuza giggled at the appearance of the two blondes, and Issei just laughed. Come on and pet him, and get used to the big lug, patting Blitz's head, who was drinking his water. Kiba and Gasper came over, and Minerva produced 2 towels from her pocket dimension and threw them towards Issei. Here, handing them towels. This should help with the drool. The two wiped their faces off before patting Blitz's head, as well as the crocodile gave a soft growl, but didn't mind the contact. Issei lifted his head towards them. Heat wave, generating a hot air that began to dry their clothes, and bits of chewed up salmon fell to the ground, since there was nothing sticky to cling to it. Thanks, Kiba replied. So the raptor's name is Flare. It kind of looks like a reptilian phoenix when its feathers get on fire. Yeah, I thought so too. When I first encountered them, he reminded me of Ravelchan. Thanks to the comparison to a phoenix, you can pet him too. Remember to show no fear. Gasper stopped petting Blitz and walked over to Flare, who turned to roar at the vampire. Oh, hush, Yakuza said. He's a friend. He would never hurt you. Giving a light swat at the back of Flare's head, causing him to growl softly, letting Gasper get close enough so he could take a whiff of his scent and then turning back to his own water bowl. So, what exactly is Blitz anyways? Some species of crocodile, Kiba said? Well, actually, according to Roshan, he's a Dreki. A Dreki? What's that? Why does Flare look different? As Kiba also let Flare get a whiff of him before allowing the knight to pet him. But he also noticed something like a scar on Blitz's right side. What's with the scar on him? Well, to put it simply, Dreki is borrowed from Drake, the Old Norse word for a dragon. Apparently they came from Valheim. Though, those are extinct now. Guess the survivors found their way into the familiar forest. At least that's what Rostron told me when I got him. As for Flare, well, he's mutated a bit, probably due to my blood. We fought when we, Minerva and I, entered the familiar forest. After the fight, we bonded. The second time we went to the forest, we had Invigold with us. It's how I met Blitz. He was a big help, rubbing the crocodile's head. I see, Kiba said. We better get going. It's definitely past 9. You and Gasper can ride Blitz. He's more friendly than Flare. Don't let the teeth fool you, as Kiba and Gasper nodded, moving from Flare to Blitz. Issei walked over to the ladies and gave his goodbyes, and Kiba and Gasper saddling up. I'll be fine, and be good to the girls, Issei said, looking pointedly at Minerva, trying to make peace, maybe teach them something they like to learn, please. That'll give us something to do to pass the time, Invigold said. Issei nodded before pulling Invigold for a kiss, and then he looked at Minerva, who was a bit agitated, but also complied. Fine, I'll play nice, Minerva says, but rather than let Issei take control, she pulled him for a kiss, pulling away, and you owe me a round for when we get home. Well, I told Lilith last night to be good, so please try to build a relationship with her. Sooner or later, she will be living with us, or possibly close to us, with a smirk, knowing Minerva will have to try and get to know Lilith. Ugh. Make that 5 rounds, Minerva says, which Invigold could only let out a sigh as she wished luck to Kiba and Gasper as well. Yeah, Issei said, before walking up to Yakuza and giving her a hug. I'll keep you updated. I know you will, Yakuza said, holding him against her. It's not the first time that I've seen you take a base off these things, Yakuza said. Well, this time I'm not alone, Issei said. He gave a kiss on the cheek. Maybe we'll get answers, though I'll have a feeling about that rumor. Yakuza said, also giving him a kiss on the cheek and pulling away from him. We would have some insight if it's true, so don't delay. I'm sure the girls would love to hear some stories about this one. Yeah. I think this one may require to meet some familiar faces. Well, best get going. Later, Yakuza-san, with a cheeky smile as he pulled away ahead to Flare. Stay safe, Yakuza said. She called out to him, all of you, as the girls watched the boys get situated on their respective mounts. With a nod from each of them, Issei whistled and Flare roared and took off. However, Blitz stayed put, looking in the direction that Flare took off in. Were we supposed to go? Gasper said. Issei could never told us how to communicate with Blitz, face-palming as they felt kind of stuck. You just need to give him a sharp whistle. Issei only whistled for Flare, but not both of them. To get Blitz to go, you need to give him a sharp whistle like this. Thus she gave him a sharp whistle, and Blitz roared, taking off after Flare, with Kiba and Gasper trying to hold on to the crocodile. Or rather, Gasper was holding on to Kiba, who was trying to hold on to the crocodile. Unfortunately for them, the embarrassing moment was recorded by Minerva. A little blackmail won't hurt anybody, Minerva says with a smirk, knowing that she may have some new pawns to do her deeds, unless they want this to come to light. Oh, I should have told them to hold on first, watching Duo before Blitz was out of view. Hopefully, Issei-kun can teach them when they get there. Switching to call Issei an affection for Issei, she was not familiar with Kiba and Gasper as they did not seem like bad people, but better safe than sorry. Perhaps, Yakuza-san said, let's head back. I don't know what Kano-chan can do when I'm not around. After all, she's still growing up, so I would not be surprised about childish mischief she may get involved in. I swear she gets it from her big brother, letting out a sigh as she walked back to the castle, Invigold letting out a giggle and Minerva chuckling as followed behind the queen. Now we're with Issei, Kiba, and Gasper. Blitz was able to catch up to Flare, primarily because Issei had whistled for Flare to slow down, seeing as how Blitz was not around until he heard yelling as Blitz became a game a few minutes later. He had panicked Kiba and Gasper hanging off his back. Issei had to laugh at his friends' predicament, of course. They were yelling about it not being funny. At least they got their first course in riding Blitz, so Issei taught them how to whistle to Blitz, but it took a few tries, but they could get the pitch of their whistles and carried on the way towards the base. Issei-kun, you never answered how Blitz got a scar, as they rode alongside down the path they were given. Oh, right. It was when we were getting Invigold-chan's familiar, actually. Blitz was taking it on. He got hit, hence the scar. Issei said, what exactly is Invigold's familiar? It must have been powerful enough to damage him, Gasper said. It definitely was, Kiba. Do you remember when we went to the familiar forest? Yes, Kiba said. And do you remember which familiar that Gremory suggested that we go find? Yes, it was the... Oh, don't tell me. That's Invigold's familiar? As he began to take deep breaths. But how could she have tamed it? I'm confused, Gasper said, seeing as he was not in the first time that the Gremory entourage went to the forest. You see, Gasper, when we went to the familiar forest, the Gremory suggested a specific familiar for me, and we went to search for it. Instead, we encountered some perverted smile and spite dragon, which Argento has as her familiar, I think, shrugging his shoulders. So what familiar was it? Gasper said. A 9-headed hydra, Kiba replied. His voice was emotionless. We were told by the familiar master that it considered one of the evilest familiars in the forest, that would even kill its master. What? How could Invigold-chan have a familiar, Issei-senpai? Gasper said. Well, as I said, Blitz got into a confrontation with it. Luckily, Blitz had elemental advantage, but was still losing. I joined to help him out, hence we bonded. Invigold-chan helped patch up a bit after the battle, hence why he likes her. It was interesting, though. When Invigold-chan was near it, her eyes glowed, but not like when she activates her sacred gear. The Hydra seemed to sense this and acknowledged her. It was a sight to see. All 9 heads bowing to her as if she was the queen. Ha! Smiling at the memory. Well, she doesn't appear to be an artificial demon like Minerva, and I don't think she's a stray. We would have heard about her. Do you know which clan she's from? Yes, but it is not my right to tell you, Issei says. Fair enough. I don't know what clan has the capabilities of being able to do that. I know, for example, Furious clan is able to tame horses in Volapine, where Sarah Org's mother is from, is able to tame lions, which explains how he's able to bond with Regulus Namia, missing Issei's grimace at the mention of Sarah Org, but Gasper didn't. Is something the matter, Issei? No, why do you ask? Well, you seem to have a look of disdain when Kiba mentioned Sarah Org's name. Kiba's eyes widened, while Issei chuckled a bit at being figured out. So you noticed that, huh? Well, that name, Knight. Sarah Org also betrayed me. Guess Sanji didn't tell you guys. But Momo told him, since she was still there and Sanji and Sona went to give my transcripts, that Sarah Org also welcomed the Gremory's new relationship that night, giving them a hug. Not so much even caring that I exist. Makes me regret ever awakening his mother. Oh, sorry, I didn't know, Gasper said. Though, it makes a little sense. You may not know this, Issei-kun, but Devlin was similar to Sarah Org. He didn't have good control of his clan's worthless ability, like how Sarah Org never had the power of destruction. So we're both ridiculed, but they grew stronger over time, with Devlin helping armies against Kairos Brigade, as you know, Sarah Org becoming the strongest young devil. Until he was bested by us. Don't forget, Knight of Gremory, my partner came from nothing, and grew to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, as Ko has mentioned before. The most dangerous Red Dragon Emperor in history, and he did that in just a span of a year, beating the Lion Tamer in just months, while he was someone who spent years honing his craft. Now my partner has an additional year and a half under his belt. If he went toe-to-toe with the Lion Tamer, neither used his sacred gears, my partner would win, because that is all we know how to do, Drake says. Kiba and Gasper had a look of surprise, since it's been a while to hear Drake like that, and also were still amazed by the look of the boosted gear, with its black line markings and silver-white claws. But they nodded at the dragon's words. As they don't know how strong Issei is now without the boosted gears. Just hearing Drake's confidence about how Issei could beat Sarah if neither of them used their sacred gears, they could tell their friend has come a long way from who he was when he was in the Gremory clan. We're almost there, Issei says. Feeling a sense of a pocket dimension before... Sorry about that. Had to blow my nose. Story's getting good now. Before letting up, a blow whistle to blow flare and blitz, causing them to slow down and skid to a stop. Alright, barrier's right in front of us. Heh, Kiba and Gasper got down from the familiars as Issei placed a magic sealer on the ground. What's that? Kiba said, seeing Issei place the seal down. It's a marker. I have a feeling that we may not be able to transport ourselves once we're in the base. It happened to me once before. That base was surrounded with anti-magic, which makes me believe that they took research of the Catray Armos, so once you enter the base, you can't simply teleport out of the hellhole that is in there. Kiba and Gasper nodded at Issei's analysis, figuring that he would know the best, considering he had taken on some bases on his own, which the factions were someone else that was attacking the bases. They just didn't know it was Issei. Alright, Issei says. Flare. Getting up from the Raptor's attention, you're on perimeter watch. Be alert for anything roaming around. Stay out of sight. I'll be signal when we're out, Issei said. The Raptor gave a chirp and what appeared to be a nod before turning around, trotting off into the forest, but they could see the Raptor was looking for where the barrier was, keeping track of it. Despite it being near, Kiba and Gasper didn't hear the Raptor's footsteps, which was a shock given its size. Blitz, turning to the crocodile, stand guard of the marker and keep watch. If you see anyone that may be reporting to Lady Yakuza, you can alert them. If it's someone reporting to the faction leaders or anyone else, stay hidden. The crocodile growled softly and went to the shade, and Kiba and Gasper shocked. They watched as Blitz's scale shimmered to camouflage with its environment. If they hadn't watched the crocodile camouflage itself, they would have never seen it and probably would have never caught in its bitten jaws, if they weren't fast enough to were considered enemies. They were amazed by the stealth capabilities of each familiar. Alright, Gasper, I know you're good with computers and stuff, so you got anything that we can transfer data onto if we find anything in there? He said. Yeah, I got some equipment and hard drives that can be used if there's a power in there, Gasper says. Usually is bases that I have been dimly lit. Got some lights flickering like a horror movie. Good thing your guys are demons, probably. You guys are demons. Problem is these things are dead, so it'll be hard to sense them, so we have to be alert, Issei said. The trio entered the barrier, and then each had the eerie feeling about this place. They looked around the place. They could see the purple sky, even though their surroundings didn't change. Let's try this, Issei said, creating another marker about 10 feet away and trying to teleport to it, which he was able to transport himself. Okay, looks like teleportation still works outside the base. It may not work once we get in, though, so come on. They looked around for an entrance before stumbling upon what appeared to be an access point. Hey, Gasper, it looks like the power. Think you can access it? Kiba says. I think so. It looks similar to the other ones. Give me a minute, as Gasper began to work on the access panel. The next few minutes, Issei and Kiba looked around, checking for any movement that made you suspicious, and they felt something other than flare. Kiba, you got swords to allow you to send range attacks? Let's try to keep our distance from these things if we can. Yeah, I got some elemental swords that should help. Good, you take point. I'll watch our 6. Protect Gasper and his equipment. If we find anything, he can store it on whatever he has. If that access panel works, it means that this place still has power. I suggest we head to wherever the security room is. Maybe there be some files there. Alright, Kiba says. As they weren't running around, they both looked at Gasper was packing up. Door's open, so what's the plan? As Kiba and Gasper entered, they got nauseous from the stench and began to throw up in opposite corners of the doorway. Issei grimaced at the stench. He wasn't immune, but he certainly did not like it. It was a stench of rotten corpses that dwelled within the facility. It made him wonder if they may find anybody in here. Feeling any better, Issei says, looking at his 2 partners, who gave them a nod after the dry heaved for a few moments. Alright, here, materializing 2 bottles of water, you'll need it. Kiba and Gasper mumbled their thanks and took a few gulps of water and stretched their noses to the smell. Don't worry, I had the same reaction when I first started raiding these bases. So did Imgold-chan. I think Minerva did as well, but she will likely deny it, claiming she is too dignified to do such repulsive actions. So ready to go? Yeah, sword birth, Kiba says, summoning a fire sword, an ice sword, and walking in front of the goal, keeping his eyes open for the slightest movement. I'm good, Gasper said, speaking to himself, as if he steeled himself and walked in, but stayed near the panel to the door to close it. Seems like we can still use magic within the base, Issei says, seeing how Kiba's swords weren't affected, and walked in for Gasper to close the door, as he felt a connection cut off. Let me put a marker here. It seems we can use magic in here, but lost connection to my markers outside. Drake, can you hear me? Yes, still here. Seems like it. Seems it is the same as other bases. Magic can still be used within the walls, but once you're in, you can't get out unless you have the right access to do so, as the dark green gem appeared on his left hand. Okay, let's do this, Issei said. Boosted gear. Balance breaker. Ornaments of red dragon, Treg says, as the flames surged from Issei's wrist, calves, and wrist to bring out his sub-balance breaker ornaments, and then one more call came out. Blade! As the 2 Ascalons appeared from 2 magic circles in Issei's hands, which grabbed their handles and squeezed. Ha! Feels weird holding these again. Better get used to it. You guys good to go? Issei said. Yeah, I'm ready, along with a nod from Kiba. Good. We have to keep this quiet. Only our breathing. We got to keep calm about that, otherwise they'll hear us and be hunting us. Although, I'd say they already are in a quiet place like this. It's likely heard that the door opened and closed. He lowered his voice to a whisper. Your move, Kiba. Kiba nodded and gave a hand signal for them to move forward from the hallway they were in, and on a couple of small sets of stairs. They could smell the blood become more prominent as they moved forward. Listening ahead, they could hear some scratches sounds. He seemed to go on every now and then, and as if it's taunting them. Well, they have to know we're here, Kiba said, his tone in a whisper. Watch out for the vents. They come from anywhere, Issei said. They walked down the corridor, and scratching got louder. Kiba gave a signal to stop. Using his ice sword, he sent an ice slash down the corridor and let it crash into the wall. That was all they needed as 2 figures came around the corner. They were somewhat humanoid, but had elevated arms that were biological blades and talons. They could see the dried blood over the figures and got critique arms in the lower torsos. Neither of them had their lower jaws, so they could see the pool of drool pool out of their mouths if they started to run towards them. Kiba sent out a fire slash that burned the slice off the arm one of them. It gave a howl in pain, slightly dazed, but it still continued to its target. Issei stepped out from behind Gasper, sending a fire slash of his to horizontally cut the other one. It also screeched in pain, but continued to use its arm to crawl towards them. Issei-kun, switch, Kiba says, seeing it could handle the crawling one that was much closer, and sent 2 ice slashes to cut off the arms. Issei gave another fire slash that cut down the other one vertically. As Kiba ran to the armless necromorph that was still crawling with its lower arms and torso, Kiba stabbed the necromorph in the head as it gave a growl and then slumped dead. He was about to give a sigh of relief when Issei came up to the dead body. As he began to stomp the body relentlessly. With each stomp until finally the head gushed like a watermelon, splattering blood on the walls and the paint of the legs of Issei and Kiba. Issei walked over and did the same thing to the other 2 slightly burnt halves of the necromorph. I call these slashers because the blades on their arms, they're pretty common. They like to try and bite its victim's head off, or slash at us, stab us to death if we're in range. Issei says, so why the stomping? Can't trust a necromorph to stay dead. Best to stomp it out. Luckily for us, this was 2 of them. As you can see, they're relatively weak and have slow reflexes. They will pose a problem if they are in groups. Got it, Kiba says. You should take point. Nah, this will help you become better. Good call on drawing them out with the ice slash. Are you all right there, Gasper? Issei says. Yeah, we should keep moving, Gasper replied. Issei was looking at the walls. It wasn't like other bases that had some fleshy moss growing on them. The trio continued to the corridor, entering another hallway that seemed a little more open. This place certainly has power. Why would they abandon it? Issei says, no idea. It would help us. Though they came back for something, Gasper says, you could be right. Considering this place is, he stopped to look at his right as there was a side vent. Crash! A slasher broke through the vent and collided into Kiba. It was screeching in his ear as it pushed him to the wall. Issei, Gasper at the same time. Kiba! Kiba had 2 swords to block the slasher's swings of its main arms. When he had his leg, using the foot to keep its distance while not letting it mutated jaws bite him, and lower arms to try to scratch on him and grab him. Issei immediately used one of Ascalon's to slice off the main arms, causing the slasher to screech at him, which allowed Kiba to use his foot to push the creature away from his chest. The force made the creature stumble backwards, and it turns attention back to Kiba, which gave Issei time to grab his dismembered arm and use it to slash it in the face. The creature screamed in pain and fury, was standing its head around, and Kiba sliced off another arm. Issei started swinging the dismembered arm into the head of the creature, blood spurting from its face, until finally he cleaved off the head, sending it flying down the hallway. Kiba quickly ran after and smashed it beneath his foot. He was breathing a little heavily, while Issei was breathing like normal. You alright? Issei says. Yeah, we better hurry this up. Hang on. Issei, come look at this, looking at the smoothed head beneath his foot. What does that look like to you? Issei walked to the smooshed severed head, and where was pointing at knelt down, and his eyes widened a little. That's fur, not hair, Issei said, seeing the blood-soaked fur. Shit, a yokai, most likely, so they are able to turn people into these monsters. I can't identify who it is. It could be one of Ryoga's. Damn it, Issei said. He got up and grabbed the body and stuffed it back into the vent before stepping back and holding his hands up. Combustion, Issei said, causing the body threw it to the vent to combust in flames. There, that will prevent any of the others from trying to get through here for a little while. We gotta keep moving, said Gasper. Maybe we can find a map or something to figure out where the security room is, and we need to get out of here, Gasper replied. It's only been 3 slashers. The fun just got started, Issei said, as he patted the vampire on the back. Hang on, Kiba said, taking his fire sword, and carved up the letter K. There, now we know where we have been. Smart move, Issei said. Let's go. The sooner we find the security room, the sooner we can get out of here. Thank goodness for my reflexes. I can't believe you took on bases full of these things, Kiba said. Yeah, I've had some jump scares like that one. It's hard to sense them because, hang on, there's a few magic signatures around. I don't recognize most of them. Some are very faint, Issei says. Could be the others, Kiba replied. Yeah, but they wouldn't have heard something like that fighting or something, Issei says. Could be more Chaos Brigade soldiers. Yeah, if you guys have reinforcements, you have been told. Fuck. This might have gotten a little harder, Issei said. Exiting the hallway, they came across a platform with 2 elevators peering over the railing. They saw levels, and they frowned. Go figure. It's an underground base, Kiba says. I thought it would be hidden among the mountains, but yeah, it makes a lot more sense. It makes it harder to destroy, but if we do, it causes systematic shifts, and the public would get curious. But there's an the public would think it's mountains, that they wouldn't look underground. Their first guess would be to check the mountains. Gasper said, true. Gasper, think you can get those elevators to work? Yeah, let me just... As he walked to the railway, only for the vent behind the railway to burst open with another slasher coming out, separated Gasper from Kiba and Issei. Gasper, Kiba says. As he and Issei were prepared to kill the slasher, Issei stopped him and pointed at the slasher. Kiba looked and saw a dark tendril spike going through the slasher's head as if it remained stiff in death. Looking down, Kiba saw that the tendril came from the slasher's shadow, which was connected to Gasper's shadow. It seemed that there was enough light to the shadow to be casted. Nice job, Gasper. Just don't, only to hear the sound of the body hitting the metal from the deep clangs until a faint splat was heard. Throw it over the edge. Sorry, Gasper says. Gasper, you should really work on those elevators. As he looked over the edge, they could hear the growls and now clangs as he could see several slashers make their way up. Good idea, Gasper replied, peering over the railing quickly and rushing to an elevator to begin to access it. Well, this should be fun, Issei says, as he heard Kiba position As he and Kiba positioned themselves with their backs to Gasper with the railway in front of them. Kiba changed his ice sword to a light sword. Same as Freed, huh? Issei said. It'll be easier to cut them within the ice sword, slashing an arm of the climbing slasher that screeched as it fell back down. I see. Heiken, Issei said, throwing a fire-shaped fist at another slasher that came out of the same vent that one Gasper killed. It screeched in pain, only to get hit by two more flaming fists to put down. But that didn't stop Issei from making sure that it stayed down, but firing more fists into its body, charring it, before sending it to another barrage as two more slashers climbing up on his right inside as they fell down. How long till the elevator, Gasper, Kiba says, sending a holy slash and fire slash to slashers. About 30 seconds, Gasper said, checking the elevator was activated and was coming to their feet. Running forward, chopping the slasher's arm off, grabbing the arm, stabbing the falling slasher in the face, grabbing its other arm and ripping it off, letting the slasher fall to its death. Using the fallen slasher's other arm, he went for another slasher, using the dismembered arm to slash it across the throat, dodging the creature's manic swipes, using Ascalon to slice off its left leg. As it fell toward, he maneuvered his body to get behind it, grabbed the back of its head, and slammed the face multiple times into the ground until a crunch was heard, before slamming again a few more times, letting go off its head. He threw the dismembered slasher's arm into another climbing slasher's face. He ripped the arm off and face smashed the slasher, slicing off the arms and the other two slashers, climbing up each side as Kiba sent slash attacks at another three climbing slashers. Elevator's here, Gasper said, as he disconnected from his device from the elevator and paneling got in, holding the door open as Kiba provided cover fire for Issei to run back across the platform with his newly acquired slasher arms as his weapons in the elevator. Once Issei got in, Kiba entered last, giving one last fire slash onto oncoming slasher, slicing it in half vertically as the doors closed. The elevator began to move downward, heading towards a floor that seemed to be halfway down the base. Thanks for cover fire, Issei said, nodding to Kiba. No problem. You good? Kiba said, pointing at Issei's bloodied arms. Yeah, it's theirs, not mine. And good job, Gasper. Any idea where we're headed? Issei says. We're going about halfway down. Figured security might be produced on the floors, to keep track of the upper half of the facility and lower half. They could do it from the middle. Seems about right, Issei says. Some of the bases I went to had security room in the middle of the complex, huh? Guys, I'm losing connection to the marker that I placed near the door. Seems like the further we go in, we're least likely to use teleportation magic unless it's short. I'll place on the elevator, dropping one of the slasher's arms on the mark elevator floor with a magic circle. Also, a few of those magic signatures seem to be near where we're going. They're not moving, but they're on the move. Gasper, if you can, we need to get this base to self-destruct somehow. I'll see what I can find, Gasper said when we hit the security room. The elevator stopped as they got ready, and they were ready to be greeted by any necromorphs. It opened to something waiting, and they waited cautiously, looking for any movement in the area before they stepped on the elevator. Let's see what we can find, Issei said. We better hurry. One of those magic signatures is heading there, walking further down and waiting hallway, looking around. Nothing on these screens, Kiba said, checking the screens in front of the seats. Wait, I got something. It seems we're on the medical level. The security station is a few levels below us, Kiba says. Finally, something. Wait, you said this is the medical field. Yeah, I guess that explains why it's a little clean. Kiba, I wouldn't be so sure about that. As we opened the door that was on their right, Kiba and Issei walked to the room Gasper had opened, and there was blood around, and also some green blood, near what looked like to be lockers, but also some file cabinets that seemed to be alphabetically arranged. Hey, there could be something in those cabinets, but before we walked over to them, they heard a skimmering sound. You guys hear that, right? Gasper said. It sounds like it's coming from those lockers, pointing on the side. Hang on a sec, Gasper said, creating a shower that he ventured into one of the busted lockers. They waited for the bat's verdict to see what Gasper saw until they heard a small screech. Gasper opened his eyes in shock and looked at the other two. It's a necromorph, but small, Gasper said. It's an infector, most likely. Shit, Issei said. What do they do? From what I've seen, they jump at anything alive or dead, creating a necromorph. I don't know. Probably through some infection, but we are in luck. Capturing one might help us analyze them. Think you can contain it? Hang on, Gasper said. I got something. Minerva Senpai showed to develop a storage seal. Making a seal that brought out a containment unit. It's a small cryo chamber that I developed with a Juku sub a few months ago. I've tested it with small animals. Never thought it would come in handy. Nice. We just need to lure it out. But don't let it get you, Issei said. Don't worry about it. Thanks to my bat, I got this. Kiba, be ready to freeze it when I pull it out. On it, Kiba said, summoning the Anschliff. Okay, here we go. As the shadows slightly towards the lockers, they heard the skidding around, which Issei and Kiba on alarm, and the slam followed by a screech. Get ready! Emerging from the shadows off of busted open lockers was a hand-like shapen hand that was squealing and mantis-like creature. Yeah, definitely an infector. Freeze it, Kiba! Letting the knight give a jab, and the ice sword creating an ice pillar that froze the shadow and hand of the effector. Nice, Gasper said, letting go of the control as he went to grab the frozen structure and the creature to store it. Oh shit, Issei said, as a crash was heard in the room, causing the three to look at the door on the right. Let me guess, one of those magic signatures, Kiba said as he railed for it. Yeah, think we can take them prisoner? Well, we only got the means to extract information, not much on capturing, Kiba says. Gasper, load up the infector when you're done. Head up to the screen Kiba found. It seems to contain a map or a guide of the place. Get data on that. Then join us. Be alert. Don't know how the infectors could be around, or other necromorphs. With that crash, that bastard in the other room, they'll likely start coming here. Once you get that, join us, understand? Understood, Gasper said. Starting the frozen infector in the containment and then sealing into the storage steel. Hang out, activating the green door from them. This should help you guys enter there. Good luck. With that, Vampira took his gear and headed out on the room waiting area. Using precaution, he sat down a few defensive seals and began to extract the map from the console. Ready, Issei said, walking to the console. Yeah, Kiba replied, deactivating his fire sword and bringing out ball mug. Alright, Issei says. He went to open the door but stopped. Don't think it's weird that they crashed through something? I mean, if they were a Chaos Brigade soldier, they should have access to the doors, right? Right, Kiba replied. Well, that's great. This could be a third party. Well, no time to present. Opening the door to a larger room behind it. It was a hallway and multiple hospital beds on the sides. The straps on them were torn and some beds were knocked down. Ah, shit. Look at the end of the room. Yeah, shit. Looks like we found our magic signature. Across was a slasher, but it was different than the others. It looked much sturdier and molted in black and green tissue and had glowing eyes. It looked vicious. The necromorph rushed at them. It moved much faster than a regular slasher they encountered. Move, Issei says, as Kiba dodged as the slasher wiped at them, hiking, launching a fire fist at the slasher. It did little damage to the slasher as it roared, turning its attention to Issei, knowing that he was one that attacked it. It took a swipe at Issei, which caused Issei to use dismembered slasher arms to defend himself. The slash caused the blade on one of the arms to crack and break. Damn, it's much stronger than a regular slasher, Issei says. From Kiba's view, seeing a slasher's back, he saw that there were two stumps with big small bat wings. This was once a demon, Kiba said, as he used Ball Mug to use a whirlwind to blow the slasher away into one of the beds, causing it to crash. You alright? Running up to Issei. Yeah. As he threw away the dismembered arms, those will break. Dreg? Blade! Dreg says, summoning Ascalon and Ascalon 2 prototype for Issei to wield. Alright, let's try this again. Looking at the slasher. The slasher roared, but this time red arm glowed a slickly green, and it slashed that arm downward, sending a slash that made up of orange and green flames at them. It can use magic? Shit, Issei said, as Kiba dodged again. I must say, this is a new development, Drake says. Contact Gasper. We got ourselves a new anomaly. Charging forward to give Kiba time to contact Gasper and let him know what was happening. Now with Gasper. Gasper had finished getting the map from the monitor and waited from the room. Thanks to the technology that he had worked with the Juka, not much to Azazel, but the Fallen was impressed. He packed up his gear and headed back to the medical deck where they got the infector. However, what caught his eyes was the alphabetical filling. He decided that he should take look and maybe store them for later. He started with the drawer that was labeled A to E, and he saw fires Agurus, Ukor, Amadis, Amasis, Astaroth, Blam, Biel, and Beelzebub, just to name a few, but Gasper knew what they were. These are the clan names of the underworld, even those that are extinct. He was shocked to see original Mao's name, but he gathered all the files that were the first cabinet stored with the seal. Moving next to the labeled F through K, he opened them up to sure enough, he found other clans' names. Other ones that he was familiar with, such as Furcus, Galstid Labos, and Gremory. Seeing all these names, shocked him, but he continued to the L/O drawer, finding the names of Lucifer and Leviathan among the clan names. They had information on every single clan. Packing and storing away these files, he began to wonder if the other teams ever found medical tech in any of the bases, or if we're too focused on other things to even check. He knew that some demons were quite prideful and clamored about how necromorphs they killed without thinking about getting information. When he moved into the next drawer, sure enough, he found the Phoenix. But not only that, he found some names under it, such as Mira, Illy, and Nell. His eyes widened as he knew those three were missing, along with some houses servants of the Phoenix clan. He saw that they had a status of contained. You remember that Issei said he felt a weak signature, and from the map, there was a containment unit below them, guarded by a security room. He stopped looking at the names and just cleared of the contents of each folder and stored them. Gasper, can you hear me? Kiba says. Yeah, I'm about to head to where you guys are. It's only the way to get to the security room. Good, because this one can use magic and it's strong, Kiba said as a crash was heard in the background. What was that? Gasper said. That was Issei-kun. As I said, this one is strong. Coming in, Gasper said, as he opened the door to find Kiba now jumping back from the green fire flash in this enhanced slasher. It did not see Gasper enter the room, as it and Gasper could see Issei stirring from where he landed. It shocked Gasper as the slasher could put Issei down. It made him think back to those lists that he found. He had a theory, but in order to know, they would have to dissect this slasher, and to do that, they had to kill. Making eye contact with Issei, he had to give a nod, indicating that he had a plan. Hey Kiba-senpai, Gasper said, getting Kiba's attention, and also had slasher. That's it. Focus on me, he whispered to himself. The slasher roared at Gasper, but turned back to Kiba, sending a dark magic attack at the knight, who had to block, but the brunt of the damage getting his clothes to rip off. Why don't you use the balance breaker full armor, Drake says. No, although it would end this battle quicker, it would just draw more attention by causing more damage for enemies to swarm us. We needed to keep it contained here. Very well, it seems we'll need to investigate this one, Drake says. I think Gasper has a plan. I'm going to need to apply scorching flames to Ascalon. When the opening is there, we strike. Understood, Drake says. As that was happening, the slasher was stalking down to Kiba until Gasper called it again. Seeing Kiba was not a threat, he turned to Gasper and roared to charge. As it did, Gasper's eyes glowed and focused on the necromorph. Stasis, Gasper said, watching the necromorph begin to slow down. Seeing the Issei light up Ascalon in flames. Your move, Issei-senpai, backing out from the necromorph. That's our cue, Issei said, lifting Ascalon like a spear or javelin, throwing it slowly at the enhanced slasher. The flaming sword sailed through in the air and stuck in the necromorph in its right shoulder. With the force, Issei threw the sword. Ascalon took the necromorph with it, nailing itself to the wall, with the necromorph facing the wall, roaring in pain, as it was burning and trying to get itself out of the predicament. Kiba, cut off that other arm, Issei says, running to the necromorph and grabbing the flailing arm that wasn't affected by the flames, yet holding in its place. On it, summoning Nethug, which was said to be capable of slicing anything. Kiba ran at the thrashing necromorph and severed the left arm off. As Issei pulled away from the arm, Kiba jumped back. The roaring necromorph ripped its right side off the wall, losing its right arm. That was burning, but Issei noticed that he had a blade yet to burn. He figured that Minerva would want to look at the blade of the slashers, so he threw the left arm and he was holding towards Kiba. Kicked the wailing necromorph away, grabbed Ascalon, nullifying the flames and ripping out the blade out of the wall, slicing necromorph's head straight off. The body fell backwards as the head flew and landed near Gasper. Kiba, freeze that arm in the head. As he took the blade out and burned the right arm to begin to seal it with his own storage space. Kiba nodded, ran over, down left arm of the enhanced slasher, freezing to preserve it, picked up and headed over the head to freeze it as well. Gasper, store those. We'll need to learn more about these enhanced slashers, Issei said. I think I have a theory about that. But remember how we talked about the people missing from Phoenix Clan? As he stored the frozen pieces. Yeah, I think they're here. Some of them, to be more specific. The missing pieces that belong to Riser's Barrage. As he looked to Kiba, you think they're here? Kiba said. What do you mean Riser's pieces? Well, 3 of Riser's pawns went missing. I found files on them in those cabinets in the medical deck, and they were contained. And based on the map, there's a containment unit next to the security room. Remember those signatures you claimed were not moving? That could be them, Issei said. Well, let's go grab them and blow this place up, heading to the elevator that was nearby, not knowing that he was going the right way. Kiba and Gasper nodded. Just as they were going to follow Issei, Kiba noticed something in the corner of the room, saying, Hey, look, a camera, Kiba said. We can come back for it later. The other slashers are coming, creating a few shadow bats that were staying near the camera and watch over it. The two raced to the elevator, and Gasper quickly began to activate it as the slashers dressed and scrubs came through the hole that enhanced the slasher created. Damn it, Issei said. We don't have time for this. Stand back. Kiba, Gasper, get the elevator open. Walking towards the oncoming slashers. Ifrit's breath, Issei said. With that, Issei inhaled an extreme amount of flames into the slashers, burning them all with ease into the hole, burning the next room over. Turning back, Issei simply went to the camera, jumped up, stabbed Ascalon to the wall, hold himself up. He used another hand and grabbed the camera and ripped it off. Jumped down, walked back to the two, and the elevator was open. Here, Issei said, tossing the camera to Kiba, and Gasper disabled his bats. Now let's go. Gasper nodded and simply hit the security room in the containment wave. Why didn't you use that before? At the first set of elevators, Kiba said. We need a way back, don't we? Issei said. Those flames were going to continue to burn, so if they have some sort of anti-flame measures, we need to turn them off. Issei said. Well, I can do that. I get into the security system, which Issei nodded. Well, we're going to need this elevator back. I lost signal again of my marker on the other elevator. They really took this anti-magic thing seriously, but we better hurry. I don't know what was in the other room. Boom! I guess something explosive, Issei says, as the elevator lights red and the alarm started blaring. Well, shit. He knew that he messed up using Ifrit's breath. It was one of his strongest moves, but he wanted to hurry it up. Knowing that the people he had connection to were in danger, the doors opened to the security and 3 immediately ran out. Issei to the nearest vent and began to wield it. Kiba saw a room that he saw in the back. That must be it. Gasper, get on the controls. Running back to the room before jumping when the slash came out, giving him him in the side. Kiba, Issei said. Hearing the screech of the slasher, patch yourself up, Gasper. Forget the door. Just get the flies. He had finished wielding another vet and tackled the slasher into the door. The door didn't give away, but Issei didn't care. He ripped off one of the main arms, using the slash the creature's torso, severing the arms. He pinned the door. He ripped off another arm, slicing it off. He picked up the carcass, began smashing it into the other glass panel as the cracks began to form. Hearing another explosion go off, he threw the body one last time, then stepped back and activated the booster gear. Boost! Drake says. Using the increase in power, he rammed his fist into the glass panel, shattering entering the room. He could see 3 catapults and some bodies in it, but he recognized them. Those were Riser's pieces. Albeit, they looked skinnier than last time he saw them. He went looking for a monitor or something. Fuck it, Issei said, and proceeded to smash each container as liquid flew out, no longer being contained and causing sparks to fly as the liquid hit some electrical equipment. Kiba, get in here and help me. The blonde knight came to the window and to stabilize himself with another explosion went through the palace. It was likely there was some chemicals that were in the room, enabled more explosions, but it seemed to be only affect the half of the base. Well, are they okay, Kiba said. He had used his jacket and went on his side. Yeah, Issei said, checking each girl's pulses, but they're faint. We need to get them out of here, Gasper. How are you doing with those files? As he carried out a damaged pod, while Kiba got her sister Nell. They maneuvered the girls' bodies out of the window and brought them over to Gasper, who was typing away at something. The heat of the flames was beginning to affect the room. Issei figured that Gasper didn't hear him over alarms blaring. Gasper, what's going on? Issei said, yelling at the alarms closer to the vampire. I'm tracking the flames. They're only going to destroy the upper half of the base, so I'm going to use the ventilation system to send them downward while overheating the reactors down below. I got majority of the auto files and log files. However, there are some encrypted files. I'm going to have to take the hard drive, as he stated, digging into the panel, summarizing the screwdrivers to take out the screws. Fuck, Issei said. He headed towards the elevator, only for an explosion to damage it and blow Issei back. Shit, elevator's busted. Gasper, how many floors did you say this room is from the medical deck? About 3. As Kiba came down with a mirror and placed along inside the panel the chainsaw-loving sisters next to Gasper, who was shifting some things behind. Considering that Gasper was not aware of the system being used, he was essentially grabbing many pieces and storing them in his personal space. Anything that they could, like hard drive. Kiba was checking the girls and seeing if they were not breathing. Began to give CPR. He wondered what would have kept them in this deep slate state. Gasper, do you have another storage container? Yelling over the alarms and pumping the chest of the Illy until she coughed. slowly breathing. Here, Gasper says, summoning a container and tossing it to Kiba, who caught it. Kiba quickly used his speed, went back to the containment room, using the container and collecting some of the liquid that the girls were suspended in. He closed the lid and made sure that it was locked tight before running back to Gasper and calling him to take the container and store it while back to CPR and Nell now. I got an idea, Issei says, having thinking of a way to get them out with the elevator busted. I'm going to blast up to the medical deck. What? Kiba said, pausing his CPR to produce on Mira now. Elevator's busted. I'm going to blast up. Taking off his black jacket and handing it over to Kiba. Here, they'll need something to cover up from the flames. Good call, Kiba says. About to untie his own, but Issei stopped him. I have another shirt. Don't worry, they're flame resistant, removing his crimson long sleeve shirt and heading over to that, leaving him topless. But what about when we get outside, Kiba says, reminding him that if it's winter in Japan, I have a high level of body heat. I'll be fine, Gasper. You got what you need, pretty much. Gasper says he much stripped all the components of the security console as he felt necessary since they didn't have time to determine what they had in the hard drive stored on it. Good. Now stand back and take cover, Issei says, running to the spot in the room of the cover. Hey, Batsira! Issei says. He fired a pillar of flames upwards, blasting multiple holes in the ceiling above Kiba and Gasper ducked behind the console to avoid heat of the flames. They also shield the unconscious pieces that are staying from the debris as may fly away over. Of course, Kiba winced due to the wound on his side. He'd properly dress it later and get proper medical attention so it doesn't get affected. Boom! It was an explosion, but it didn't come from above. It came from deep below them. What was that? Issei said. One of the reactors, most likely, Gasper said. Good. Whatever it takes. I took those other medical signatures, and frankly, I'm not in the mood to fight another enhanced slasher, so we need to move. Coming over and picking up Mira, who was wrapped in his jacket, Gasper helped up Kiba pick up Ely, wrapping in Issei's shirt. Then he picked up Nell, routed his own jacket as they raced to where the hole was. A burning slasher fell through. Not wasting any time, Issei Spartan kicked the slasher, letting it continue to screech in pain. Gotta keep moving, Issei said, activating his 4 dragon wings that were red and gold to intricate flames designs in black and flew up to the hole. Kiba and Gasper followed using their devil wings, and burning slasher tried to make up a lunge, but failed due to losing its lower half. Recognizing the medical deck, thanks to the big hole that was busted in the enhanced slasher, there was flaming slashers dying in agony, while they were charred corpses as well. The flames roared as Issei covered up Mira's nose and mouth. Kiba and Gasper did the same for Illy and Nell. Grab onto me, Issei says, which the two did and found themselves teleported into an elevator. Activated, Gasper. Gasper tried to do his best but found that nothing was working. Another explosion was heard. I can't. The explosion's damaging the circuits. Shit, Issei said. They were so close. So they had to do was ride up and be done with the elevator was heating up. He knew that he had to destroy the elevator. Cover the girls. Same like the security room. I'm blasting the ceiling. Hiking! He fired the first flame that destroyed the roof and elevator and caused the elevator to jolt a bit. There was something creaking that was happening, and the boys moved quickly, grabbing the girls and flying up the flames. The chute of metal that was an elevator sash, due to being more in a condensed area, the smoke was getting to Kiba and Gasper, and they were slowly losing altitude. Kiba more due to his injury. Issei was not on to leave his friends behind. Flew back down and assisted Kiba and then got in contact with Gasper. He flew them to the top and then queued to the teleport to the marker as he placed in the hallway. When they got there, Kiba and Gasper were coughing heavily, and girls were also coughing a little bit. Issei saw the flames were behind them, but catching up. He decided to let the guys catch their breath quickly, since the flames were not coming at a fast rate. He checked Mira for anything unusual like a possible infector wound, but only finding small tissue buildup and bruises. He figured the tissue buildup was from needles. Mira then coughed it awake and found herself in an unusual area before looking at Issei. Issei-sama, Mira says, cooking in disbelief for what she was seeing. Shh, don't talk. We got Ilya and Nell as well. We're going to get you out of here. Just rest. Rubbing the girl's head as her eyes were fluttered closed. Then turning his attention to Kiba and Gasper. How are you guys doing? Fine. And now that there's not much smoke, Ilya's breathing okay. Not stable, but okay, Kiba said. Same, taking deep breaths, Gasper said. Good. He tried to contact Yakuza through a magic circle. Damn it, we need to get outside the barrier. I can't contact anyone, and they're going to need medical attention. Grab onto me, and Gasper, get ready to open the door. The two grabbed onto him and found themselves teleported near the door and entered. They could tell because of their individual piles of vomit in each corner. Gasper, set down. Nell and summoned his tech to begin activating the door to let them out. Issei was breathing a little heavily, as he'd done quick teleportations in a short amount of time. Kiba united his jacket, wincing at the wound, and retied the jacket a little more gingerly. Got it, Gasper said. The door began to open. They also had a glass shatter and multiple screeches. Let's move, Issei said, Kiba getting out of the Ilya and then helping Gasper before turning back. He could see their shadows from around the corner. Dragon shot! Firing a signature move at the corner of the wall, blowing up the ground and picking up Mira and getting out of the door. He turned back into the tire of a few slashers and get past his obstacles, so he placed Mira down and fired another 2 dragon shots at them. The others were collateral damage, but it was enough to push them back. Close the door, Gasper, Issei said, who set down Nell and began to close the door. However, due to malfunctions of the explosions happening inside, it kept opening back up. It won't shut! Okay, try to shut it as long as you can. I'll weld it shut, looking at where's the door sliding mechanisms were ready. Yeah, Gasper said. Go, Issei said, proceeding to the mechanisms. Each of the door opened, it was going slower, but it was also closing at a slow rate as well. Kiba fired the slashes at the slashers that got close. When it was really slowing, Issei muscled the door shut, firing another dragon shot, opening and then wheeling it shut. They all took a deep breath, exhausted until something raptured. Kaboom! Feeling the ground quake and beginning to crack, they remembered the explosion of the base. They didn't need to be told twice, as the adrenaline in their veins caused them to pick up the girls and just run. Issei sent out 2 whistles. Hearing the rumble nearby, he knew Blitz that was remained where he was. They bolted towards him. A roar was heard shortly after, knew that Flare was heading to where Blitz was. You guys got Blitz? Whoa! Issei said, ducking down as Flare jumped over him and was ready to go, having sensed the danger of what was underneath. Blitz arrived moments later as they boys suited themselves into the 2 familiars, and Issei gave out 2 whistles for them to move. Breaking the barrier threshold, he contacted Yakuza. Yakuza-san, it's Issei. We found 4 people in need medical attention, and we made contact Sonositri. These people are missing pieces to the Phoenix Clan. What? The Phoenix Clan? You found them? They've been missing for months, Yakuza said. Yes, they're unconscious right now. Now, they were contained in some liquid. Just contact Sonositri and contact Rise or Phoenix, and your medical personnel to be ready. When we arrive, keep us injured. I understand. We'll see you soon, Yakuza said, disconnecting the call. Hang on. Mira, we're going to get you girls home, holding on to the girl close to him so she could stay warm for his body heat. Seems like you were right about that feeling of meeting old faces, Drake says. Yeah, but we need to know what they were doing in there. Hopefully Gasper was able to get everything that could help. Indeed. Try to catch your breath for now. After all, we got ourselves a reunion coming. Yeah, fuck, as he sighed and relaxed on Flare, listening to the dragon laugh in dismay. Letting the raptor and crocodile hurry themselves back to Kyoto, he knew this reunion was going to happen. He just wanted it later rather than sooner. And that is the end of Chapter 9. Now, I'm pretty sure, my God, I know that was over an hour, which is a lot of talking. And man, am I tired. So, before you leave, please hit the like button, as your boy just read for like an hour straight, and I am definitely a little exhausted, especially from working all the time and doing this at the same time. But that was a really good chapter. That was a really good chapter. That's probably one of my favorite chapters right there. The next one's probably going to be even better. So, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If at all possible, become a channel member. Be a homie. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for the support. And without any further intrusion, ladies and gentlemen, Spartanic Arts DxD out.